welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to be exploring the Islamic perspective on the human condition.
That's right.
Physical, moral, and spiritual.
Looking forward to it.
Our guide for this journey. Excerpts from Mirza Ghulam Ahmad's book, The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam. This deep dive is going to be particularly fascinating because Ahmad presented these ideas at a conference of major religions back in 1896. Talk about a high-pressure situation.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is how he approached it.
Absolutely. What I find really insightful is that Ahmad focused on showcasing the beauty of Islam solely through the Quran, highlighting its role as the ultimate guide for humanity.
So imagine you're in the audience at this conference hearing about these different perspectives on the human experience. Ahmad steps up and introduces this concept of the three states of man. He's basically saying that we all exist in these three states simultaneously: physical, moral, and spiritual.
And what's really interesting is he doesn't present these as like fixed categories or anything. Instead, he describes them as stages in a continuous process of development.
Okay, well, let's dive into these states. The first one, nafsi amara, which translates to the self that incites to evil. Sounds a little intense, doesn't it?
It might sound a bit intimidating at first glance.
Right.
But it's simply describing our natural, instinctual state. Think of it as the part of us that's driven by basic urges like hunger, anger, and desire.
Those primal urges.
Yeah. We share these impulses with animals. It's that voice that says, hey, eat all the cookies.
Oh, yeah.
Sleep in. You know?
Yeah.
Why bother?
We all know that voice.
Right.
But Ahmad doesn't frame this state as inherently bad.
No, he doesn't. He sees it as the starting point of our journey. We can't blame a baby for wanting to put everything in its mouth.
Right.
They're exploring their world through their senses. But as we mature, we develop reason and awareness.
Okay.
And that's where the second stage comes in, Nafsi Lawama, or the reproving self. This is where morality starts to play a role.
So that internal battle we all have between what we want to do and what we know we should do, that's the reproving self in action.
Exactly. It's that voice that reminds us of right and wrong, making us feel that twinge of guilt when we mess up. This is where we start to regulate those impulses from the first stage, striving for better conduct.
So it's like when you know you should be hitting the gym, but that comfy couch is calling your name. That struggle is a sign that we're evolving morally.
Exactly.
So where does this journey ultimately lead us? What's the end goal?
Well, that brings us to nafsi mutmaina, or the soul at rest. Think of this as the highest spiritual state, where you find complete contentment and solace in your connection with God.
It sounds so incredibly peaceful.
It is.
Like reaching a state of pure inner harmony. But is this something we only achieve in the afterlife?
That's where Ahmad's perspective gets really interesting.
Okay.
He emphasizes that the state of nafsi mutmaina isn't some abstract concept reserved for heaven. He believes it's attainable in this life.
So you're telling me we can experience this profound sense of peace and contentment right here, right now. What does that look like? How do we get there?
Well, it's not about denying our natural instincts and desires. It's
Yeah.
about refining them. Ahmad sees all three states as interconnected. You have to work with the raw materials you're given.
So those primal urges we talked about, they're not the enemy.
Not at all. Think of them as the ingredients, and morality is the recipe.
Okay.
Through conscious effort and understanding, we can transform those raw impulses into virtues.
He used the analogy of a child's natural affection for their mother,
Yeah.
which later gets refined into the moral quality of chastity as they grow up.
Exactly.
Like that raw affection is the seed, and through moral guidance, it blossoms into a more mature virtue.
That's a great example.
He also talks about courage.
Yeah.
A wild animal might display instinctual bravery, but true human courage involves discernment,
Right.
knowing when to fight and when to exercise restraint.
Oh.
So it's about taking our natural impulses, adding in reason and knowledge, and essentially creating a moral compass. But what role do our physical actions play in all of this?
That's a great question. Ahmad makes some fascinating observations about how our physical actions directly impact our spiritual state. Even seemingly small things can make a big difference.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
He talks about how physical prostration, like in Islamic prayer, can foster humility, while carrying yourself with an air of arrogance can actually reinforce those feelings internally.
I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
But it makes sense.
Right.
Our body language often reflects our inner state.
Exactly. And he points out that even crying, even if you're not genuinely sad at that moment, can evoke real feelings of sadness.
You mean like if you're watching a really sad movie?
Precisely. He's highlighting that our physical and spiritual selves are deeply interconnected.
It's almost like a feedback loop, right?
Yeah.
Our physical actions can influence our spiritual state, and our spiritual state can influence our physical actions.
Absolutely.
It makes you wonder how many of our daily habits are subtly shaping our inner world without us even realizing it.
That's a powerful insight, and it leads us to another intriguing aspect of Ahmad's work, his focus on the significance of age 40 in a person's spiritual journey.
Why age 40? What's so special about that age?
Well, he draws this fascinating parallel between the first 40 years of life and the first 4 months of fetal development.
Okay, now I'm really curious. How are those two things connected?
Ahmad suggests that just as a fetus starts showing signs of life after 4 months, a person's soul undergoes a kind of awakening around age 40.
It's like a second birth, but this time it's our spiritual awareness that's coming to life.
That's a great way to put it. This awakening often leads to a period of introspection, a shift towards seeking deeper meaning and purpose.
It's like reaching a turning point where we start questioning our priorities and yearning for something more. And it's not just about abstract soul searching. Ahmad also gives very specific advice for cultivating certain moral qualities, like chastity.
And he's not just talking about abstinence.
Right.
He sees chastity as a much broader virtue, encompassing purity of thought, intention, and action.
So how do we cultivate this kind of virtue? What's his approach?
Well, he outlines 5 remedies for what he calls unchastity.
5 remedies. Tell me more. This is getting interesting.
He was a big believer in providing practical guidance. The first remedy is to restrain your gaze from those outside permissible relationships.
So basically avoiding those wandering eyes.
Yes, and the second is controlling your hearing to avoid content that could lead to impure thoughts.
Okay, so it's like putting up safeguards to protect your inner peace and focus. What are the other 3 remedies?
He also advises avoiding situations that might lead to temptation, followed by fasting and managing your diet to help control urges. And lastly, he emphasizes the importance of seeking help from God.
So it's not just about willpower.
Right.
It's about recognizing that we need support beyond ourselves.
Exactly.
But even with all this focus on individual effort, he also stresses the importance of finding balance in all things.
Absolutely. He advocates for a middle path, avoiding extremes in all aspects of life.
Give me some examples of what that balance looks like.
For instance, when it comes to generosity, he talks about finding that sweet spot between being overly extravagant and being a miser.
So it's not about throwing money at every problem or hoarding it all for yourself, but about finding that middle ground where you're being both responsible and generous. What other areas does he apply this principle of balance to?
He also discusses the importance of practicing forgiveness and forbearance without compromising your dignity and self-respect.
That's a really important point. Forgiveness doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It's about finding that delicate balance between compassion and setting healthy boundaries.
Exactly. Ahmad saw this balanced approach as crucial for navigating the complexities of life and avoiding those pitfalls that can derail us from our spiritual journey.
So far, what I'm gathering is that Ahmad's view of the human condition isn't black and white, good versus evil. It's more about this ongoing journey of growth and refinement.
That's a great way to put it. And for Ahmad, this journey ultimately leads to true steadfastness in our relationship with God.
Okay, let's talk about steadfastness. What does that mean in this context?
Well, it's about remaining dedicated to God, even in the face of hardship and trials.
So it's not just about believing when things are easy.
Right.
It's about holding on to that faith when life throws curveballs our way.
Exactly. Ahmad describes it as persevering without expecting immediate rewards, enduring disgrace, and accepting death with unwavering faith.
That's a powerful concept. It suggests that real spiritual strength comes from weathering the storms, not just enjoying the sunny days.
Absolutely. And this unwavering commitment to God, this steadfastness, is at the very heart of Ahmad's definition of Islam.
So it's not just about rituals and outward practices.
That's right. He defines Islam as complete submission to God's will, a transformation that happens deep within.
It sounds like he's talking about more than just following rules. It's about surrendering to a higher purpose.
Yeah.
Aligning your will with the divine will.
Exactly. It's a state achieved through the symbolic death of our ego and selfish desires, followed by a rebirth into a spiritual life guided by God. He even uses the powerful image of entering a purifying fire that consumes all our impurities.
It's a vivid metaphor for the challenges and rewards of spiritual growth. It makes you think about what you're willing to let go of in order to embrace a deeper, more meaningful way of life.
It certainly does. And it prompts us to ask ourselves, how do we actually cultivate this kind of profound spiritual connection in our own lives?
Yeah, that's a great question. It sounds like a journey filled with both challenges and incredible rewards. But where do we even begin?
For Ahmad, it all comes down to aligning our will with the divine will. It's a journey of letting go of our ego.
Yeah.
And embracing a path of service and devotion.
It's like surrendering to a higher purpose, allowing something greater than ourselves to guide our steps.
Yeah.
That kind of surrender, the symbolic death of the ego, is what paves the way for spiritual rebirth and true fulfillment.
Exactly.
But how do we actually cultivate that deep spiritual connection? Does Ahmad offer any practical guidance on how to begin that process?
He does, and it all goes back to his emphasis on the interconnectedness of the physical, moral, and spiritual states. He believed that nurturing each aspect of our being is crucial for spiritual growth.
So it's not just about prayer and meditation.
Those are important, of course.
Right.
But Ahmad saw spiritual development as a holistic endeavor.
Okay.
Our actions, our thoughts, even our physical habits play a role.
So if we want to cultivate spiritual growth, we need to address all aspects of our being.
Exactly.
It's about recognizing that every choice we make, every action we take, has a ripple effect on our spiritual well-being.
That's a great way to put it. For instance, he talks about the importance of physical cleanliness, arguing that it can influence inner purity.
It's like the saying, cleanliness is next to godliness. But taking it a step further, are we talking about more than just physical hygiene?
Yes. It's about cultivating a sense of purity in our thoughts, intentions, and actions.
Okay.
Ahmad believed that even seemingly mundane physical practices can have a spiritual impact.
It's a reminder that spirituality isn't just some lofty concept. It's about how we live our lives every single day. It's about bringing those moral qualities we discussed earlier, like honesty, courage, and generosity, into our everyday interactions.
Exactly. He saw moral conduct as a direct expression of our spiritual state. For example, he highlights the importance of fulfilling promises and speaking truthfully even when it's difficult.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk. Aligning our actions with our values, even in the smallest of moments.
Absolutely.
And of course, there's the importance of prayer and seeking guidance from God.
Oh, that's a vital aspect of spiritual growth. Ahmad saw prayer as a lifeline, a way to connect with the divine and receive guidance and support when we need it most.
It's like tapping into a higher source of wisdom and strength, recognizing that we don't have to go through this journey alone.
Exactly.
But it's not just about blind faith, is it? Ahmad also talks about the significance of seeking knowledge and understanding.
That's another crucial point. He believed that true faith was grounded in knowledge, not just blind belief. It's about using our intellect to deepen our understanding of God and his teachings.
So it's about engaging our minds as well as our hearts.
Yes.
Using reason and logic to explore our faith more deeply.
Precisely. He saw reason and revelation as complementary, arguing that both were essential for spiritual enlightenment.
So it's about finding that balance between faith and reason.
Right.
And it's not just a solitary pursuit either. Ahmad also stresses the importance of the company we keep, surrounding ourselves with people who uplift and inspire us.
That's so important. He understood the power of our social environment to shape our thoughts, beliefs, and actions. We've all heard the saying, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right. It's a powerful reminder that our spiritual journey isn't just a solo mission. It's also about the people we choose to share it with, those who support our growth and challenge us to become better versions of ourselves.
It's about finding your tribe, those who resonate with your values and aspirations,
Right.
and can help you stay on course when things get tough. And speaking of community, it's fascinating to think about the context in which Ahmad presented these ideas. Remember, his book was originally shared at a conference of major religions.
Wow, imagine being in that room, surrounded by people from diverse faith backgrounds, all searching for truth and meaning. It must have been an incredibly powerful experience.
Absolutely. It highlights the universal appeal of these spiritual principles. While he was speaking from an Islamic perspective, his message transcends cultural and religious boundaries.
It's a reminder that despite our differences, we all share a common humanity, a deep yearning for purpose and connection. At the end of the day, we're all on this journey together.
That's beautifully put. And that shared desire for meaning and connection is what ultimately unites us on our spiritual journeys, regardless of the specific path we choose to follow.
This deep dive has been so enlightening.
It has.
We've explored the three states of man, the connection between our physical and spiritual selves, the importance of balance and steadfastness, and ultimately, the transformative power of aligning our will with a higher purpose.
And amidst all these profound concepts, Ahmad offered practical guidance on cultivating spiritual growth through our actions, thoughts, and relationships.
It's a powerful reminder that spirituality isn't just some abstract concept. It's about how we live our lives, how we treat others, and how we connect with the divine.
Absolutely.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on what this deep dive into Ahmad's work reveals about the nature of the human condition. What stands out to you?
What strikes me is his emphasis on the inherent potential within each of us. He doesn't see the human condition as inherently flawed or sinful. Instead, he sees it as a journey of growth and transformation.
He believed that we all have the capacity for spiritual greatness.
Yes.
But it requires conscious effort, guidance, and a willingness to surrender to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And he provided a roadmap for that journey.
Yeah.
Emphasizing the importance of moral conduct, seeking knowledge, and cultivating a deep connection with the divine.
His work offers a powerful reminder that our spiritual journey is a lifelong process of learning, growing, and evolving.
And it's a message that resonates deeply, regardless of one's background or beliefs. It leaves us with a lot to ponder about our own individual journeys and how we can cultivate a more fulfilling and purposeful life.
Well, folks, that's about all the time we have for this deep dive.
Oh.
But we wouldn't be the deep dive if we didn't leave you with one final thought to chew on.
Right. If we consider Ahmad's idea that true steadfastness is about holding on to our faith even when things are tough, it makes you wonder, what are the biggest obstacles to steadfastness in today's world?
That's a good question.
And what strategies or practices can help us overcome them?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with.
Yeah.
It's something we can all reflect on as we continue our own individual journeys. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Islamic perspective on the human condition.
Absolutely.
We hope you've enjoyed exploring these profound ideas with us.
Yes.
And that Ahmad's insights have inspired you to reflect on your own journey of faith and resilience.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.
When we talk about steadfastness, it makes you wonder, what does that even look like in today's world? We're constantly bombarded with distractions and information overload.
Right.
How do we cultivate that deep, unwavering faith amidst all the chaos?
It's a great question, and, it's something we all grapple with, regardless of our specific beliefs. Life throws curveballs.
Yeah.
Doubts creep in.
Yeah.
And sometimes it feels like the world is designed to test our commitment to what we hold dear.
It's in those moments of challenge when our faith is truly tested that we discover its strength. Wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Ahmad believed that true steadfastness isn't about avoiding hardship or pretending it doesn't exist.
Right.
It's about facing those challenges head on with courage and grace.
He saw those difficult moments as opportunities for growth, didn't he?
He did.
It's like that saying, smooth seas don't make skillful sailors.
Exactly. He believed that trials and tribulations, as difficult as they may be, are actually the crucibles in which our faith is forged and refined. They force us to examine our beliefs, confront our weaknesses, and ultimately emerge stronger and more resilient.
So how do we approach these inevitable challenges in a way that strengthens our faith rather than causing us to stumble? What advice does Ahmad offer?
Well, he emphasizes the importance of turning to a higher power for guidance and support, especially when we're feeling lost or overwhelmed.
It's like reaching out for a lifeline when we're caught in a storm.
Yeah.
It's acknowledging that we don't have to face those challenges alone.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Prayer and contemplation can offer solace, clarity, and a renewed sense of purpose in those difficult times. They can help us reconnect with what truly matters and find that inner strength to keep moving forward.
It's about finding that anchor that keeps us grounded amidst the chaos and uncertainty of life.
Absolutely.
But what about when we're struggling with doubt? Are there other ways to fortify our faith?
Well, Ahmad encourages us to reflect on the lives of those who have embodied exceptional steadfastness.
Okay.
Think of the prophets, the saints, the individuals who have faced unimaginable adversity and yet remained unwavering in their commitment to their beliefs.
Their stories offer a source of inspiration, don't they?
They do.
It's like looking to those who have walked the paths before us, learning from their wisdom and courage.
Exactly. Their examples serve as beacons of light, illuminating the path for others to follow. Studying their lives can provide guidance, practical strategies, and a renewed sense of hope when we're facing our own challenges.
It's a reminder that we're not alone in our struggles.
Right.
Countless others have faced similar trials and have emerged from those experiences with even stronger faith. Their stories can empower us to face our own difficulties with greater courage and determination.
And in doing so, we contribute to that collective legacy of faith and resilience, inspiring others who may be walking a similar path. It becomes a beautiful cycle of shared strength and support.
This deep dive has been so insightful. It's made me think about the nature of faith, resilience, and what it truly means to live a life guided by a higher purpose.
Right.
It's not about avoiding the storms. It's about learning to navigate them with grace and emerging from those experiences stronger than before.
That's a beautiful way to summarize it. And at the heart of it all is that unwavering connection to something greater than ourselves, that source of strength and guidance that helps us weather any storm.
Well, folks, that concludes our deep dive into the Islamic perspective on the human condition. We hope you've enjoyed exploring these profound ideas with us, and that Ahmad's insights have inspired you to reflect on your own journey of faith and resilience.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.